back. Episode 3, Moving on Sports. Your hosts, Ryan and Sam. How are we doing this week?
Doing phenomenal. Although I guess that stat about Frank the Tank doing this for 20 years and no one listening was a little dejecting, to be honest.
We're going for 21.
Yeah. But,
Okay.
well, this will be like in a time capsule for future generations. And those are the people that will really appreciate it anyways.
You know, like those people that create like beautiful art and they're not appreciated until after they're dead? That'd be us.
That's exactly us.
They were right. They were right. All right, moving on. Let's get it. First topic today. Here's a fun one. Should countries have the right to sell citizenship like products or loan out citizens like soccer teams?
Before we get into this, I think just thinking about it, I think we do have to just talk about the Lions Packers game.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think I have to get that off the chest. So I think it's just a lot of bullshit happened. I don't want to be the person to blame the refs, because usually when people do that, it's like, oh, you didn't play well, your team lost for good reason. But that was all on the refs. And Detroit was coached, and you know what? Good for them. But they just took advantage of it that they didn't get plays called all the time. It was ridiculous, and I think that was the only reason we lost the game.
Yeah, I mean, I hate being like that too. Weird start to the game. So LaFleur had that interaction with the fan, yelling at each other. One of the guys who was holding the American flag got into it with the head coach. And, Detroit's loving it. Obviously, for us, it's a little weird. He lost his season tickets. So,
oh, good to hear.
And then they kind of played. They kind of exposed us what we were worried about. Over the middle screen, tons of screens. We actually played really well. I thought holding Montgomery and Gibbs. Running wise, Goff made some plays, but yeah, I mean, it's hard because the ref thing is, I think it's legit. I think it does play, and that Christian Watson one, I just have a really hard time with, because I understand that play happens quite a bit in the NFL, and I literally think he was he kind of turned and was trying to slide by him almost. Most guys even. It's pretty blatant when they're doing it. And it looked like the refs, just watching the replays and watching people break it down, they weren't even really watching it. And then they just saw the guy on the ground. So they just assumed something bad happened, and they just kind of launched their flags. So yeah, it was kind of a weird play. And then, at the end there, it sucks just watching, you just can't do anything to stop, and you're just watching them slowly bleed the time and kick a field goal. So, I don't know. You seem a little upset.
Yeah. I was, while you were talking, I was just going through PFF linebackers, because it just seems like a position where that is just not in accordance with what the Packers want to do, right? Where it's draft and development. We'll wait a couple years for you to get good. I think we're finally seeing that with Quay. He's still not phenomenal by any means, but he's definitely come into himself. But now it's just fourth year, right? And linebackers
is it really?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is his third or fourth year. It's like quarterbacks, where it takes a lot of time, and it's kind of we don't really have the luxury of that. And I think too, on our defense, it's just going to be a lot of coping, a lot of excuses coming from me. But you go from a 3-4 to a 4-3. That's kind of a big change, right? And it's kind of interesting that the people that we drafted are the ones that are really excelling in it, when we knew what scheme we would do, rather than the leftovers from before. Gary is now kind of coming into his own, but we let go Preston Smith. Lucas Van Ness is hit or miss. He's doing okay, he's fine.
Is getting really.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. And for a young edge, I think we should have patience, right, with that. But just the linebacker. So I think at that point I looked at the free agents, there's not really super awesome guys there. But that's just an area where think a trade. It's like basically linebacker, cornerback. If we have those two positions filled out, sure you'd like more edge D line, but if we have that, I think we're off and going. I think that Christian Watson fumble was pretty hard to take. His first fumble, I think, ever, maybe, or at least of the season, maybe the last couple of years. So he's had like the first big drop, right, when that first the game the other day where he had that long one. That was his first drop, and then first fumble, like just terrible times. Reminds me of like Aaron Jones, where just so awesome, but then he does these backbreaking things that like kill us. Love definitely was touch and go. The first half, we had like some false starts, but we didn't have any line offsides, which was nice. But the second half, he really turned it on and showed what he can be. So, like kudos to them. I think they converted 4 out of 5 fourth downs, and maybe that inspires us to not be so bitchy about our play calling.
What'd you think about them going for it on that 4th and 1 at the end of the game?
I kind of liked it, because it shows like, hey, this is what we do, and we're gonna beat you, and it's like confidence, and I think it shows that we're sticking true to what our identity is, right? Doing shit even though it's stupid or maybe not like analytical darling, and a big thing too is don't let Jordan Love get time to win the game. You win it there, and I think teams underestimate that if you have the ability to control it, the outcome, take more advantage of that rather than, leave, we've seen that so much with Mahomes, Rodgers, all the great QBs, where if they have a little time left, they can make something miracle happen and that breaks you, So
Definitely.
yeah,
I liked it too. I saw someone say, one of the Packers guys, he was like, you want to do what the other coach fears you're going to do. And I think that's a good way of putting it. Like,
yeah,
if I'm like, when I'm in that moment, I was like, I didn't want them to go for it because I wanted to get the ball back with 40 seconds and like maybe do something. And you can move the ball quickly. Like you can get an offensive pass interference easily on a deep ball and move 40 yards in like 5 seconds. So I thought it was a good call. And like it's like some risk reward. A lot of people were like freaking out, being like, Dan Campbell, he's going to cost them, Super Bowl. I think it's when you're tied, it's not as risky. Like obviously it's a confident play. He's kind of like, well, if we go into overtime, we can win. I think there's something too about just like firing up the boys, like just like putting that confidence in them and saying like, hey, 1 yard. Like I can't believe Goff almost fell too. That's crazy.
Like holy shit! If that would have been, I think their whole season changes if that it goes down and can't get the handoff off.
That is true. Big vibes, like big momentum, big vibes. But like, if one of these like vibe choices fucks up, does it all of a sudden do people start like questioning each other in the locker room? Like, it's always great when you're winning, but all of a sudden, if you lose, they just keep fucking winning though. So,
like, imagine the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, like Chiefs voodoo magic against the Lions. I place the house on the Chiefs. But you have to give credit, like Goff. This is a really nitpicking, minuscule part of the game, but he is really good at like handoffs. Like his arm is outstretched, and I've never like there was one in like the first half where I think maybe we like blew up the running back or him, or he almost got to Goff, and then he was able to get the ball off, and then like Gibbs got like a 12-yard gain on it. I think it's a pretty underrated skill that like the arm is like perfectly outstretched, and I don't know, it's a clean, sound operation.
Yeah, I saw a highlight. I think it was the week before where he turns and like guards the ball. So they had a guy in motion, and he like kind of turns like a fake to the motion guy going across like a sweep, like a jet sweep. And then the ball is hidden. So the linebackers are like, does the jet sweep? And then then Gibbs went toss, and he like fakes it to him, like the ball is out. You can see it now, but he fakes it. So linebackers shift hard towards Gibbs because, like, if you don't shift, Gibbs is scoring a touchdown 100%. This is like near the goal line. And then he turns and he hits Laporta over the middle. And it's like, that's a great play. It's just a great play. It's really hard to defend that. And yeah, you're right. It is like those small things can make a difference when you're playing at this level and you're playing in 3-point games. So same with like the Watson fumble. Like that gave him the field goal. quick turnaround there, and then they're up 10-0. So it puts a little pressure on us. It did kind of like the drive before the half. They had like a long 5.5-minute drive that kind of sucks. Just like we took the timeouts trying to get the ball back, and then I think he fourth down, right? 4th and goal.
Yeah. I think that shit is like so predictable, right? Like it wears your defense out, and like I don't know. Like if they have 4 downs, it seems like they're gonna keep doing it and keep turning the clock. It's like if I was Halfley, I think it's kind of a tale of two worlds, a tale of who has balls, who doesn't. Just send the house like every single time, right? You either like sack, fumble, like play for one series and just do everything you can. And it's like, all right, if they score a 90-minute touchdown, well, shit, at least your defense gets off the field. You give your offense a chance to, score, like match it, right? I think like
at what point do you take some big risks?
Yeah, and that was like that's the point, Yeah. And it seemed like the Packers, the ethos just kind of doesn't like allow for it. Like our big risk is like, oh, we're opening the game with like a long shot. It's like, woo, so risky, like, and sure, and I'm going against like everything. It's like, this is sound football. And eventually the dice, like the odds are that it's not going to work out. And then you have like the one where you go for it 4th on your 30-yard line and you give up an easy score. Right. So,
but I think football is kind of that game where it's now baseball, where like baseball, the Lions would probably cost themselves, but football is just a little different. Like you just do have these weird plays. It's a mentality. It's just like a one play at a time, beating the guy across from you. And sometimes you just got to it really comes down to like, I don't know, a couple plays during the game that really swing it both ways.
Here's a good question. What sport do you think momentum matters the most in? And do you think it's a real thing?
I think it's a real thing. Yeah, I do think it's a real thing. The number one sport I would say is college basketball. Like when you get, like if you're at home and you get the place rocking, yeah, like you just, I don't know, it's just something like guys just start freaking out. They start pressing. It forces you to take timeouts. It's just like you can feel it happening. You go on these runs, and I think that's like a big reason why you see like Kansas losing to Missouri. It's like, like they storm the court. There's just like the crowd's into it. I think that's like one of the times where the crowd can really affect it. NFL, NBA, I think maybe you can like feel good about yourselves, but it can change so fast. Like,
yeah,
you got to be careful. Like you don't want to have a quick 3 and out. Like, oh, you're feeling great. We're scoring. Defense is playing great. And then you like have 2 incomplete passes, and all of a sudden like they get the ball back and they can do like a little bit more of a methodical drive. That's a tough thing about playing like a Navy or Army. Like it's just so slow. You have no momentum. So what do you think?
I think you're right in terms of like regular season games, where I think college, because it's like for a lot of them, it's their first big moments. And, you go from like high school, right? Like year 1, year 2, that's still a novel, exciting experience. And it's like, oh shit, right? And I think the talent gap as an aggregate is like, since you're not as good, like anyone can kind of be good, like, or if you just get hot from 3, you can just take over a game, right? And I think like players are able to do that, but it's not like as sound defensively or whatever, where, like someone gets in their head and they start freaking out and they like miss their coverage and you get like wide open 3s, right? Versus like pro sports, where I think they're more sound, like in terms of like fundamentals, exactly. But then I think when you get to the playoffs, I don't know. So like playoff baseball can kind of get wild, and you can like just feel like, a reliever coming in. Like I just think that Brewers Mets game, like it just felt like something was going to go wrong. Like everything was going too good, and then Devin comes out, and like Devin's always a little shaky, and then I guess he's kind of like Dan Campbell is, right? Where it's like, oh, it's so good, but it's like you're hanging on a nice edge, and it usually goes well for him, but like in that moment, it didn't go well, and it's just like boom, right?
Yeah. It seems like he's always had guys on base last year.
Yeah, and like for a lockdown reliever, like sure you can strike people out, but like if one home run, that's 3 runs. Like I mean, Shit. Yeah. It's like, I think when you think of lockdown reliever, it's like not just low ERA, gaudy strikeout totals. Like, I don't want to see a fucking person on base at all.
Yeah, like the walks,
Yeah.
but the walks just like put more pressure on you, and then you just,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden you gotta like worry about them. They start stealing, and it's easier.
Yeah. And your arm gets tired too,
to
like, I mean, I don't know, like you have all these walks back to back to back, and like, I think a walk hurts more than like a hit or even like a home run almost. Cause it's like, okay, the
Dude.
batter did something great, like whatever, but it's like, I can't command. Then you take like a free swinging team that's, could be pressing right in the moment, but they're like, oh shit, I'm going to wait for my pitch and they get locked in,
Mhm.
so, there's definitely something there where it's like, I think a walk is almost the worst thing you can do, like in a tense moment.
Especially like a low in the order, like a 7,
Yeah,
8.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
you're
those
like,
guys aren't
we
going to get
gotta get
hits,
this guy.
Yeah.
We gotta get this guy out, and then it's on you walk him. You're like, oh shit. Now like Lindor is gonna bat or Alonso's gonna bat, and we're gonna have to deal with that. So it just like it's in the back of your mind, like even if they're 2 batters away or something, it's like, oh shit, we're gonna have to deal with that. Here's one interesting one. I think you can get momentum in golf. And like I think
Yeah,
even like
yeah,
like where you just start feeling good and you get hot,
yeah.
like I think that golf's like an interesting one where you just start feeling, I don't know, you just start like
I think
seeing.
especially for putting,
Yeah,
I think because putting is so feel that it's like, I strongly think that your putter is like an extension of your mind. If you're not feeling good, you're not going to putt good.
that's fair. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like when you're confident and you're just stroking it, you just like
Hmm.
it feels like every shot can go in.
That's probably baseball too, in a way, right? Because it's just, I don't know, something with the extension of like a club bat in your arms, and because if you have the sweet spot in baseball, it feels like you're kind of like hitting nothing, right? Similar kind of feeling as golf where you like stroke it.
It is a super streaky sport. I mean, you see guys
Hmm.
throughout the season constantly go like up and down. Like no one, I mean, there probably are a couple guys, but like not a lot of guys are just like hitting the same average month after month after month. It's pretty,
Yeah.
it's pretty weird actually.
Yeah,
Um,
golf and baseball are pretty similar in that regard, where you're fighting against like the supposed outcome, right, of like a par or strikeout or out, right? And it's like if you do something better than that, then like it's successful.
yeah. One weird one is like wide receivers. You just like you don't touch the ball that much, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, like I feel like that's part of it with like Watson and just maybe some young guys too. It's like you're just kind of like, and maybe that's maybe one of our issues with having so many guys is you don't feel evolved constantly. So
Yeah,
all of a sudden the ball comes to you and you're just like, I don't know, just like feels different. You're just anxious. You're not ready.
yeah, and then
Or
you have a drop, and then you're like, fuck the rest of the game.
yeah. What about Reed? Not like what do you have? One target, Jaden Reed.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like we pick a guy, like it's just like, oh, this guy got a lot last game. We're gonna go to a new guy. Like
Weird.
Wicks had a pretty good game. I think it's
Yeah,
not talked about. Like he had an awesome catch over the middle where he got hit pretty hard and looked like he got a concussion.
yeah.
He was making some grabs, and I think he really needed that. And I almost just wish like, a lot of people were calling about Dobbs. Like I like him. He's good. He's clutch. I think his spatial awareness for like his toes, like on the
Mhm.
sideline, it's like he always just get his feet in bounds, But like I don't know, like that's a cool thing to have, but it's kind of like Lazard. It's like, oh, he's such a good blocking, wide receiver. It's like it's like if you call someone nice, like the first attribute you require, especially to like a guy, it's like, oh, he's nice. That means like you're not doing anything special, like that's good to have, but like I want someone that's like better, like Wicks gets open, Watson's speed, Reed's agility. I think to your point, like three guys is like the max of what you can spread offense with and feel good about, but like four, it's just one too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, like Devontae, his thing was releases. Like he always could
Hmm.
just like beat a guy off the line of scrimmage, and that was so awesome because on those like short down, like 3rd and 3, you can just like beat a guy quick and hit a little slant and
Hmm.
like just get down. And I don't know if we have like a great release guy or like a quick
No.
option. We kind of like game plan it a little bit more than
Yeah.
just like dependent on a guy to beat a guy one on one, which credit to LaFleur. He's done a great job with it. But I don't know if we're like necessarily just beating guys like maybe with speed with Watson deep, but
Yeah, but like it takes him a while to get up there. Like he doesn't have. It doesn't seem like he has a quick burst. Like he has high end speed, good catch radius. Big guy, but like because he's a big guy, it takes him a little while to get going. I guess Reed's probably the best, right, in that category. But to your point, because we have to scheme guys open, then you have to like run pick routes, rub routes, and then you get OPIs. And that takes away our touchdown, right? So it's like if we had someone that could do it, that's a touchdown right there. Even though that call was, officiated poorly, but I do give like credit. Like the Lions, like basically they want. I saw that they lead the league in like a cornerback pass interference, and it's kind of like one of those stats that like look bad on paper, but it just means that they're playing so aggressively that you get picks or whatever. It's like, okay, if you're going to give it up anyways, why not chance to, like defend it, right? It's like either you get it or you don't. And if that's your skill set, like why not fucking just go for it?
And so many times you're going to not get caught. So, it's a little bit of risk. It's kind of like, I don't know, when you play defense, it's like if you're just constantly checking a guy, the refs is like, oh, he just plays physical. It's like, okay, well, is it a foul or not? But refs, I don't know. You're kind of like, well, I don't want to throw a foul on every play. So
and then like because you get the fans start booing, especially at like home.
Yeah, you get a little more away with that when you do that. I don't know, play like physical. That's what it always kind of bothered me, honestly, when people would be like, oh, they're a physical team. I'm like, it's either a penalty or not. Like, but I get it. I mean, I understand like it's a little bit of the psychology and just like being up in your face and they definitely brought the attitude. I don't know if like Kraft should have said that stuff before the game. Not that it really mattered, but it just like gave him a little bit of a locker, like a bulletin board material. But he handled it well after, and the dude was like talking a lot of shit to him. Whatever, move on, get better. I did think you made a good point though about the 4-3 defense and like how we're not quite fitting it with our players. And I do think we're gonna have to make some changes probably, or just like it might just take a year or two to figure it out, which kind of sucks, but that's kind of the reality. I did see that we got $25 million in cap space and we can get up to $50 million this offseason. We're losing like no one. Jair is $19 million dead cap, $7 million cap hit if we keep him. I think we keep him.
100%. And then after this year, if it's like another like this, we let him go.
Yeah, and then we could pretty much sign anyone. So if we could sign like sign a defender, I don't know who the top free agents are honestly, but we got
wide receivers. It doesn't really look like, I don't know. I kind of looked at it, but didn't look too much. But it seems like most of them are like it's like T. Higgins, someone else.
Yeah, I don't know about T. Higgins honestly. I mean, I think he's a good player, but I just don't know if I want to like pay him a bunch of money.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need it, but whoever gets it, honestly, I think he'll be really good. I think he'll be really good.
Number one, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of running.
Like maybe fucking Panthers or Patriots. Patriots probably. That seems kind of right.
Yeah. Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, but like I would hate to get him, like Diva, he's like old now. He's like 31.
Yeah, and he always kind of brings a little extra too. Do you think Darnold's gonna get paid a bunch?
Yeah, he's gonna get a fucking bag.
Which is kind of crazy.
I don't know. I mean, like, would you rather have him or Carr of the Saints?
Darnold for sure, probably.
Yeah,
he's playing really well. And I think like
really well.
Him and O'Connell, they're just like O'Connell's a good coach, I will say, and like
he's really
kind of annoying. And but he's just like working. It's kind of like Goff and Ben Johnson and Campbell, like they're just working really well together. And I think there's something to say about that. I don't know why. It seems like the Vikings are not gonna pay him, and they're like, oh, we're just gonna let him walk. And it's like, man, if you get a guy like that, and I don't know if he's gonna get like $40 million. I think he's the perfect.
He's gonna get $40 million. I think he'll get a Baker Mayfield deal.
Oh, shit. Well, why does every quarterback get $40 million?
Supply and demand, bro. Supply and demand.
I guess just keep doing like the 1-year deals and hoping it works out. I mean, there's a bunch of guys who are like younger, kind of like I don't know. There's like the Mac
I
Jones.
don't think he's gonna get a 1-year deal. I think he's gonna get like a 3-4 year deal.
No, yeah. But I just think if they let him walk and then I mean, I know they got McCarthy, but do you sign another guy who's like been around the league for a couple of years?
Well, they got that. They traded for a quarterback or like the guy that got released, Daniel Jones. Like I could see Daniel Jones like doing the same Darnold type thing.
Yeah, Zach Wilson's a free agent.
Yeah. So looking at it, I think DJ Reed of the Jets, we give a bag to. He's 28-year-old cornerback.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons is only 1 year left on his deal.
Interesting.
But it's like, does he fit our?
I
don't know if he fits. It's kind of a weird one.
Yeah.
Chase Young. I mean, I've always liked Chase Young, but he hasn't ever like just been able to put it together.
Ooh, Devondre Campbell's a free agent.
He was good with us.
Oh, Dre Greenlaw. That'd be a good guy to get. 27.
That dude's a beast.
Yeah. And the Niners probably can't resign him. Isaiah Simmons too. He's young. Or the Giants.
Isaiah Simmons, yeah.
Kaiser White, I think, has been doing all right. Yeah, so there's some linebackers.
Carlton
So
Davis was pretty good.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy's played pretty well. I wonder if any of these guys get returned. I mean, Rasul, we can bring back Rasul.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I wouldn't hate it.
See what we do. I think we're probably gonna have to draft a corner, bring back Jair. We just need some depth and like some bodies. You're right though. We need linebackers. We need rushers. We need corners. We kind of need a lot on defense, and it's funny.
It's like we've done it for like 10 years, and it's like we still need,
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, but the loss doesn't bother me. I mean, it's annoying. It's super annoying, like everything about it, but it doesn't like worry me going forward. I feel okay with the team. And like, I'm glad we're right there at the chance to win at the end. So we're tied. They kick a field goal. I feel good going to the playoffs. I want to keep like playing better though and getting better. And
yeah, like, I guess it kind of worries me that we have all these like close losses to like playoff teams, And it's like, we're right there, but
good, really.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I think there's something you said about, so like with the Lions that they have no one on their defense and like somehow they're like balling out. And I think it's just because like they just run straight ahead. And it's like, as long as you run really fast, like straight ahead, like because it's like our offensive line looked like dog shit against them. And I don't know, like, I'm not expert enough to figure out why that happened. But you have all these no-name guys like just young and hungry, and just say, hey, just go straight ahead, and like if they beat you, whatever. Yeah, I guess I don't know why that works and why we can't do that with our team. Feels like we're like a Mercedes where it's like everything has to work perfect and it's over-engineered and it's like, oh, it's like, prestige and everything. And they're just kind of like a Dodge Hellcat where it's like, fuck all that. Like pedal the metal, straight line speed, and somehow that shit works, and it's really fucking annoying.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's also why they have some injuries and stuff too. They play a little right.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, you get into the playoffs, I think the game, like defensively, it does change a little bit. You do see guys just like they play. It's just different. They're putting it all out on the line. They're like sacrificing their bodies. They do not care anymore. And it's pretty awesome. I love watching it. So I'm excited. It'll be fun. I think they're playing the Vikings this week, right? Lions, Vikings?
No, Lions, Bills.
Oh, Lions, Bills. Okay. And it's Vikings. I think the Vikings are Bears.
Vikings, Bears.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Lions, Bills will be awesome. That'll be like a legit test for them. Josh Allen was fucking unbelievable. Kicked my ass in fantasy.
Yeah, knocked you out of fantasy. That sucks.
Yeah, it was hard to watch because like the Rams kept scoring, and I was like, damn it, now he's gonna keep like pushing here. I was like, I need him to, but incredible player, 3 touchdowns, three passing, 3 rushing, I don't know, 1 million yards. Dude just kind of does it all. I will say he does flop a little bit.
Yeah. I think all the elite QBs kind of do, I think to be elite, you kind of have to do that shit a little bit.
Yeah, he's just such a big guy, and I don't know. It's like, but whatever. He's great. He's kicking ass.
Is he your MVP so far this year?
You know, I don't want to overreact because like that one game, it seems like he leapfrogged and like everyone's like kind of anointing him now. But I was looking back at the stats and like Lamar is pretty much better at everything. And he even like combined rushing and passing touchdowns has like 3 more than Josh still. So I still think I go with Lamar right now, but
no, I kind of fuck that because like I feel like Josh Allen got like shafted last year, so it's like this is time for Lamar to get shafted, and Josh Allen deserves one. Although it's like turning like the MVPs like NBA, where it's like we gotta make sure everyone gets a little taste and it's like a participation trophy now. But I don't know that Josh Allen doesn't have one kind of bothers me. It actually does bother me. It bothers me kind of quite a bit. Like he's so good for him not to have one. I think it's kind of ridiculous.
It's not easy, man. Aaron actually got 4 of them, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking crazy to think about.
Yeah, and I don't know. Sometimes I like now that I look back, I'm like, did he deserve all 4? I should go back.
No, he didn't.
The last
one? But he was also, I think, I don't know. Yeah, but he played really fucking good, and I think his numbers just look so good on paper. Like no interceptions. Like he's a certified stat patter for sure. But he also won games, so I don't know. Like I think we're just so
spoiled. But we didn't. He wasn't the most clutch guy.
No, he wasn't.
And it like really bothers me. Like about his legacy. And it's funny because like Caleb Williams, his favorite quarterback was Aaron Rodgers. And he's now doing the thing where like he hasn't thrown a pick for like 7 games or something like that. He takes a lot of sacks. He's holding on to the ball too long, and he doesn't take like risk. And I don't know. I think you got to take a little bit more risk. And you got like Rome and Keenan and Colton, like you got dudes out there. Like fucking like launch them, man. Like your team is done. You're out. Like the season's over. Like just start chucking a little bit. Who cares? So DJ Moore.
Yeah. He has a chance to break the all-time sack record. I think Drew Brees holds it, and it's like, and no one. I guess it does bother me. There's the same thing with Fields, right? Like he got sacked so much. And his fumbles, sacks and fumbles were Fields. And like those are 2 really terrible things. And they're never in like a traditional quarterback stat line is right, like yards, interceptions, touchdowns, right? And completion percentage. But like those 2 things are like I think is more important than like sacks and fumbles are more important than completion rates and you could say yards, and I think it's like players know that, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to throw a pick, but I'll take a sack, even though a sack is just as bad as a pick. But like to everyone, next year later, it's like, oh, you look at the line, like, oh, he had such a good year, like no one helped Caleb out, and it's like I think he's doing okay, but those things are super concerning, and it's like, oh, it's so easy to blame the offensive line when it's like, no, it's a lot on him too.
Yeah, I think you're right because like the sacks are drive killers. Like first and 10, second and 16 sucks, and then or whatever you get a sack.
It's basically a turnover. It's basically a turnover.
Yeah, you're punting probably. And then like the fumbles. I don't know. He's just like it's just kind of weird, and I think also too maybe to your point, like he's kind of creating bad habits. And I think that's one of the biggest things about rookie quarterbacks when they play. Is like you can't create bad habits if you're going to play. And I think a lot of guys, that's like always like the debate is like, do you play a guy or do you let him sit and learn? And it's like, if you're going to play a guy, you just like, you really got to play the right way. Even if it's like not pretty, even if you lose, you got to just like timing throws. You got to just like take the risk and like trust it and like just learn.
Yeah.
And I think you see it across a lot of sports actually. And like when you create bad habits, it's like really hard to become a different person later. You're a young guy, you're like 21 years old, 22 years old. Like it'll probably take till he's like 28 to get out of some of this shit. So you don't
I think a lot like chipping, right? Where it's like you have to do it the right way for it to, be consistently good. But it's a lot easier. It's like scared, right? Because if you do that and you kind of like give it a swing and you like pop it, right? It goes like 20, 30 yards, you're over the green and it's like, fuck that, right? So it's a lot easier just to like bitch hit it, and so it goes a little bit, but like you'll never like reach pinnacle success. And that's kind of what it seems like with like the rookie QB thing. Like a lot of them just want to do the bitch hit it because it's like, all right, it looks on paper, it's fine, it looks okay. But like you set such a hard ceiling for yourself. And I guess kind of like kudos to the Colts that they saw Anthony Richardson kind of do some stupid shit, bench him, and he's come out. Like I haven't watched a lot of it, but he looks better. You know, I think he's definitely work in progress. But
same with Bryce Young.
Yeah, you got holy shit, right? You got to have balls in your organization. And now, like the recent report is that like Warren and Poles are feuding, and Poles might like resign this year. It's kind of hilarious because it's just like that's just Bears, you know. Like,
oh, it's beautiful. The Poles shit, like Poles was so cocky all off season. I don't know, like that video has been going around where he's like, "Oh, this is the questions I use interviewing my coaches," and he's like, "I want them to take me through like all the answers they need to know for situations," and he's like bragging about how other people are going to use that in their coach searches, and it's like, dude, you don't know what the hell you're doing. This is the first time you've ever done it. You sucked at draft or picking Eberflus. Your draft pick, like, we thought it was a great choice when you traded for Bryce, when you traded the number 1 pick and got moved back. Now it's like,
but you still got all those other picks, right? You got Rome and stuff, and you know.
But we'll see how it all turns out. And I don't know. It doesn't look. He's not.
It doesn't look like a genius move. It looks like a good move now.
And he's like oddly kind of cocky about it all, and it's like, bro, you gotta prove it a little bit first. So. Yeah, it'll be fun to see. I do think like people were kind of get overreacting a little bit to Bryce Young. I mean, he's like one of the most talented. He was one of the most talented guys coming out of high school. He was awesome at Bama. He comes in and he like the Panthers. You know, it's like
and
they finally kind of got a little momentum this year. Their running back situation with Brooks. Jonathan Brooks, I think, got hurt now, but he's like
tore his ACL. Now he's out a whole nother year.
Did they pay him? Or they just
because he just drafted him last year. Yeah, so and he's like super young. Like he'll be 21. Maybe he's 20 right now. He'll be 21 when he returns. So you compare that like Tyrone Tracy is like 26. So yeah, definitely age kind of gets lost in like the scheme of things too. Like 20-year-old tearing it twice. I don't know if it's the same knee or the other knee, but it's kind of concerning too. But yeah, they don't look terrible. Like their offense looks all right with what they have. It's not too bad.
Almost beat the Eagles, and then the Eagles keep winning too, but they're kind of in the weird. It seems like all these top teams, like they're winning a lot, but they're like not winning pretty. And credit to winning. I think the NFL is the hardest league to like winning consistently because there is so much parity and it takes 53 guys. But AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, there's a little bit of a thing going on there. Day Smith, Goddard's out. Saquon's awesome. I think that maybe people are just like talking a little too much, maybe. But Hurts has never been like a pocket passer who's just gonna feed dudes like all day. So it's like, what do you expect from him? He's winning. Yeah.
So I guess like with all this, like who would be like the most crazy team to like win the Super Bowl? Like would it be like whoever wins the NFC West, like Seahawks, Vikings? I guess those two kind of would be the most crazy for me.
Yeah. So the Steelers would be fucking wild.
Yeah. They're good, but like no one ever thinks they're like they're kind of like Vikings, I guess, in a way, but like better, Yeah.
Every time I look at the Steelers record, I'm just like, even Russ's stats, like I know he hasn't played.
It's pretty good. Like he had last week's game, it was awesome, and the game before that was pretty awesome too. Yeah.
But he's not like putting up crazy numbers. He's just kind of like doing things the right way. And I will say, like TJ Watt's a fucking stud, so that's nice. That's nice to have. I think he had a pick last game, right? Commanders winning.
Yeah, that'd be kind of wild.
Didn't. Tampa Bay, if they get in, we'll see. I guess the Rams are kind of in it still too. So big game Thursday night, Rams 49ers, because they're both like kind of on the edge there.
Yeah.
And then we got Seahawks. So big like changes possibly this weekend in the NFC West. So it's getting fun. Like it is kind of getting a little exciting
Yeah, even with like not that much, like kind of like the teams are kind of set. There is still some games, right? So divisions, and I think we basically we need to win one game to get in, basically, and then if we win two, we get this 6th seed locked up, which would be nice. So we don't have to play the Eagles or Lions. But almost like, well, because then we'd have to like have a real big skid. But I kind of almost would like just like fucking play them right away. It would be kind of nice.
Yeah, that's true. Kill them, beat them.
Because like they're rested,
What if they have to play them both then?
Yeah, you would have to play them. No, because eventually you would, assuming they
maybe
win
play
out,
the
right? Because you play,
first, and then
yeah.
Who knows, man? Who knows what'll happen? That's the fun of it too, because maybe some of Campbell's decisions will catch up to him.
Yeah, maybe. All right, we should move on to our first question.
Back to topic number 1: should countries have the right to sell citizenship like products, or loan out? I don't know how this would work. Loan out citizens like a soccer team. What do you think?
Okay, so when I first read your question, I thought it was different than what it actually is. So I think it's the Bahamas actually does sell citizenship for like, I think it's like $100,000 or $10,000, where you straight up buy it. And like, you know what? That's fine. How I kind of thought it was like sell citizens like products. And I was like, oh, that's kind of, So I took it as a tack where it's like, I don't know, say you're like South Africa, right? And like loan out Elon Musk to a country, right? But then you get him back type thing. But I guess there's not really any like things preventing like, all the super sought after citizens. It's like kind of easy for you to like become like, America's never going to turn down like a genius or like a awesome sports player, So I guess it would be like maybe like Africa with like dictators, where it's like, oh, I'll loan you my dictator for hire so that they can, or like general, or maybe even America, right? Like we'll loan you our generals to command your forces for a little bit so they get like brought up to speed, and then we take them back. That'd be kind of interesting. Like I guess more military loan out would be.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it's like we don't want to go fight a war. We'll pay you guys, in a sense. We'll pay you guys go fight a war for us, and then
I mean, that's like, basically U.S. is doing with Ukraine right now.
Yeah, So I guess it's happening. I will say, I do think like we do in a sense, like I don't know if it's loaning, but it's like there are a lot of people that come to the U.S., study, and then go back to countries. So it's a little bit. The right to sell citizenship, I think it's a little interesting, like because if certain countries have like extradition stuff, right? So maybe you're in some interesting businesses or some, maybe troubled businesses, and like you want to buy the ability to go to Russia or something. It's like $1 million or $10 million. And it's like, I don't know, I would maybe do it. I just saw like, Trump said he wants to, if you invest $1 billion, they'll like expedite the, approval process of like your building your whatever facilities or whatever like that. And I think that's cool because like pretty much you just want people to pour all the money into our country as much as we can and like grow. So
yeah, it'd be interesting too, especially like California, right? Because they have extremely onerous environmental regulations. So I don't know if like federally you could just say these don't matter, like I don't know if that supersedes it like that.
I don't know if he like necessarily said these don't matter. I think it just was more.
Well, he said like we'll help you with it,
right?
Yeah, but California, I would imagine it'd be like fuck the Trump administration. We're not helping them in any way, shape, or form.
We'll do everything possible to like make it worse.
Yeah. Like I saw so like with the high speed rail, like a French company was like won the bid or something like that. And then they like pulled out because they said, and they like moved it to Africa. They said like Africa is a much easier place to do this project than California is. And like that's just a kind of disgusting thing to hear.
It's insane, dude. That company, they operate the ones here too. And like they're really special, like the SNCF or whatever, like mean, it's just fucking railroads and
Yeah.
cars. And like we went to Paris from Barcelona. It's like, yeah, I don't get why it's so hard. It almost seems like they just don't actually want to get it done, and maybe
No.
that's what it is.
Well, it's like a continuous grift, I guess. Unions, like
Yeah,
that's what I
true.
say, and I feel like that's what like the NGOs is. It's like just continuous grift of funneling money into your friends and like
Yeah, 100%. I think like someone, I don't think it's possible, but if someone could do, or like a team of people could do like a deep dive and like actually trace where all this money is going, it would be insane. Like it's like we pass these bills and then it's like we just like it kind of like splinters off into all these groups, and then all of a sudden they're kind of doing work at the start, and then like a couple of years later, all of a sudden their salaries are like tripling, and
yeah,
the amount of people that they're serving is like way less, and they're like, well, we're helping homeless people, we're helping immigrants, we're helping whatever, but it's like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's helping the problem. And yeah, I think the NGO is like one of the biggest issues in our country, honestly.
yeah. I mean, just
Just
all the federal money. It seems it's doled out so much so quickly without like little oversight at the beginning, and then just no like follow up on the back end of it.
Yeah.
I guess it's just kind of wild that all this. But then you have like little stuff, which seems like it is like well done. I don't know. I guess.
Yeah. That's what always been the weird thing. It's like the city and state stuff. It's like hawks.
It seems, like, yeah, they're like pretty good about it. It seems for the most part.
They are, and they're like on top, and they're like following all these rules. And federally, it's like, and like it seems like such a workaround because you send it to this NGO, non-governmental, but then they're only being funded by the government, and then they are nonprofits. Which what does nonprofit even mean anymore? Besides they're just not paying taxes.
Yeah,
and then
right.
They just. It's like there's no actual there doesn't seem like there's any regulations on nonprofits, like how much they can make, how many salaries they can do.
No, it's just you can't give it away to like shareholders. So it's like then it's like, okay, you just pay yourself.
Yeah, and they just like hire. It's like, well, we have 7 board members for our. Like, oh, congratulations, guys. And I don't know. It just seems to be weird.
The tax policy is just remove nonprofit altogether. Like every organization has to pay tax.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It doesn't make any sense. And
Church,
a lot of
schools, whatever,
yeah.
Okay. Everyone has to pay tax.
I mean, people can pay. The Catholic Church can pay taxes.
Yeah.
It is what it is, guys. It is what it is. All right. Moving on. It kind of is happening, I guess. Ukraine.
Yeah.
Shit. Oh, I just went to the end. Whoops. But also like and subscribe.
Important message, though.
All right, here we go. This is kind of crazy. So
yeah.
Google quantum computer posits. Is that how you say that word?
Yeah.
Posits the multiverse is real. I sent this to you, and I'll just read it real quick. It says that the computation they were able to do in under 5 minutes would take one of today's fastest computers 10 septillion years, just 10 to the 25th power. And because it's such like a insane number, it pretty much exceeds like the time scale of possible physics. So it proves in a sense that there's other universes, which I kind of thought maybe.
Yeah.
Or like I'm kind of into like the whole simulation theory, I guess. It kind of makes sense. Not that you can really do much with it. It is what it is. But do the Chiefs and Lions have access to, maybe they got the first of the Willow computer chips?
Yeah. Well, and like Google just seems like they haven't done anything cool in like forever. And it seems like they're on the down thing, especially with like the AI, like ChatGPT and stuff. I mean, that's kind of becoming like Google is, and like in the foreseeable future, that just seems what people would use Google for, right? Why use a browser that gives you shitty stuff, ads, when you can have like a tailor-made browser to what you want? So I think like you always have to look at like externalities and like incentives, and so they have like a lot of bad headwinds coming their way, and they're kind of like forced to like like do something good. So like how how much I trust them on their claim is not very much. I could totally see them like cheating, lying, like doing some fake stuff to get this result. So I guess with that major caveat, yeah, so like, and I saw if what they say is true, they can basically mine all the Bitcoin, that's like $110 billion. They can do that like in a day or something like that. So, that's kind of crazy. And like what that does to Bitcoin, probably would crash it. I have no idea. I don't know. I think cryptocurrency is kind of stupid, but it'd be nice if you could remove all the huge energy requirements for it, because if it just does this so quickly, then like it just all stops working and going away. And then like all this energy usage, can be redirected or to something else. So that would be kind of nice, I think, for countries and stuff. I guess I just don't think it's like cryptocurrency is like a worthwhile thing, but like maybe it is and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But the chief headlines access to this, it's kind of interesting. Like instead of we talked about like meeting aliens, but like what is if meeting like your clones like from a different universe? Like that seems way more likely, I guess, in our lifetime than any other like hypothetical weird thing.
Nuts. Yeah. How I picture it is like, so every single day you make millions of decisions, right? It could just be moving my hand here, moving the mouse, whatever, drinking water, not drinking water. And I feel like there's like a universe where every decision is just like one different. You could find some that are like maybe similar to you, or just maybe, I don't know, it's just like you'd find those weird paths of like how this affected these chain events of how things, I don't know, that's what I like to think about the multiverse and just how little things can affect your world. I think it's always interesting too, because it's like that one thing about like if you could go back in time, people are always worried about changing small things and how it would have like compound effects down the way. But like you never think about it in your day to day of doing something small that could have big effects in the future. So it's kind of like it'd be super interesting. Meeting, I don't understand how like you really meet them though, because
like how do you cross planes?
Yeah, I feel like that. I mean, to be honest, a lot of this quantum stuff is like way over my head. But it's a cool theory. It's interesting what you say about Google, maybe like with credibility. I think like the government's making them sell Chrome. And they're in some other like lawsuits and stuff, I think in Europe and stuff. I just watched this the Netflix, like the biggest heist ever. It was these two people, they got in trouble. They stole $70 million worth of Bitcoin in 2016. And then like when they got busted, 2022, it was worth $4.5 billion. So like, and you should watch it. It seems like there's something more to the story because they don't really get in trouble. It became like the guy went to jail for like 5 years. The girl went to jail for 18 months. It became a national security issue all of a sudden. And then they like couldn't really use a lot of evidence and just some weird, I don't know. There's definitely more to the story there. So it'll be interesting to see. But like that's kind of the whole crypto. When I was watching it though, it's like you have these crypto influencers who are just, in a sense, they just kind of like, it was kind of like finding gold, like back in like the 1800s or whatever. It's not like they're doing
super
anything
talented
special.
or super intelligent.
They're just, it's just like you kind of got on and it hit it big, and like that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like funny that and still it's like people aren't really buying and selling. I know there's still pushes to move into like Bitcoin. I think some countries are starting to look at using it more. Microsoft just voted to not buy a bunch. I don't know. It
just doesn't have like any use case, like it costs money to send and transact. And then you have like shit like Zelle and PayPal where it's like, okay, we already have that. And you don't have to worry about sending it to the wrong address or all this like, complicated things you have to do, like the only real point of it seems to be that, okay, if I'm doing, I can either buy illegal stuff with it, or like, say Russia, right? That they could, with all the restrictions they have in their banking and their money, that they could just buy Bitcoin and trade and sell it and be able to, evade sanctions. So it's like all just for doing like illegal activity. And there's nothing I have heard or read that makes it like, oh, this is such a compelling thing. Like the one thing that's kind of interesting is like for deeds for your house, if you have it on the blockchain, then you don't have to have, title insurance, because it's all, recorded and verified that, okay, this person owned it, now this person owns it. So you can remove, that little aspect of, I guess, legal compliance or work or whatever. But like, that's the only use case I have, heard that actually makes our lives better in any way.
It seems to me like it's more of a
breaking news. Red Sox just traded for Garrett Crochet.
Damn it. I wanted him.
I keep talking. I'll see if I can find what for.
You're breaking news on our podcast. Nice, Sam.
I know, right? Isn't that good?
What would it be? I think
Kyle Teal. That's a big prospect.
Who was it?
Kyle Teal was one of the guys in it. I think it just broke a minute ago. So Kyle Teal was like, there's a big catcher.
Okay. And to the Sox, who, I mean, they'll pretty much take any prospect, right? By the way, the Sox got the 10th pick in the draft, which I thought was pretty fun.
And like the fucking Nationals get it again. And like the Cardinals, right? Got an awesome pick. I think they got a lottery, top 6. And the Cubs got shafted, which is kind of funny.
Good. And I was like kind of sad about us, but we just played too well, so it is.
Yeah, and like we'll get like a comp from Willie. We'll have another comp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then a comp from not signing our pick, and then I think something else. So we'll actually be in this draft, supposed to be pretty good. So we should be looking sitting pretty.
Yeah, Cardinals 5th, Pirates 6th, Cubs 17th. So
yeah, the Marlins I think got shafted the worst because they had tied for the highest odds for first, and I think they even fell out of the lottery.
Okay, is this supposed to be a good draft? Is there like some?
Yeah, it's supposed to be. That's just what I've heard, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I think maybe Ethan Holiday might be in it, which would be sweet. Yeah, and like there's some.
I do this draft in OTP all the time. I already know all the guys, actually.
The guys, yeah.
It's like there's a good catch. Well, it's Caglione, right?
Yeah. Well, he already went. Are you talking about the 2024 draft?
Yeah, maybe he was last year.
Yeah, he was already picked. Yeah.
Ethan Holiday. There's a catcher from out of college that's supposed to be good. I can't remember. He played solid for me. But yeah, Bitcoin, I kind of agree with you. I don't think.
Yeah, Ethan Holiday.
It's like a weird. I don't know. It's a weird thing, and it like doesn't really have no one. Like I wouldn't really want to accept it for anything. I think to me, honestly, it's a little bit of a toy for like people that have excess money. Like no one who is like poor is like or living paycheck to paycheck is like I want Bitcoin. It's like it seems more of like a toy for wealthier people that.
Or kind of like GME type stuff where it's like you don't have to use any intelligence, right? Like you just buy something and and like all like the meme coins and all that shit, like I don't know. I guess it feels like it only takes away from society. It hasn't really added anything to it.
I hate all the meme coin shit. I saw Talk to a Girl like put out one and like lost a bunch of people, lost was funny. Whatever. I'm not a fan of all that. They made one for like they just make one for everything, it seems like, and then it just like goes up for a little bit, drops out. Maybe some people.
Yeah, they're just like Ponzi schemes, I don't know. It's just like selling junk stocks. Like it's the new thing, but it's cool now.
All right, moving on. Number 3, is it ethical to clone yourself to raise as a backup organ donor? So do you kind of like treat them as a true person, a clone, or you kind of treat them as like a organ harvesting thing, I guess? And then I just put this other one on there because it kind of went with parenting, but we can talk about the first one first.
Well, so I think if you ever get to this, it's not going to be like a whole person. It's just going to be like taking samples of like you're just regrowing a liver, right? Or regrowing a heart or growing whatever. Like I think putting a brain in it just basically will never happen, almost. I think we talked about this, but it's kind of interesting with like kidney transplants. They just add the kidney in, they don't take the bad kidney out. So if you have like multiple of them, you can have like 3, 4, 5 kidneys just floating around in you.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's because I looked it up because it's basically removing an organ just fucks with your body, even if it's bad. It's just a lot easier to just reattach a new one than it is to, and you have like kind of like, and I kind of thought everything was like tight, kind of like a tent in a bag where just everything is just made to fit. But like, no, there's like room in there for like shit. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they do. They just add a kidney. So, but
Interesting.
yeah, so it's like, does it like, and like, do you have legal rights to it? Can you sell it? Kind of like, I guess if you donate sperm or eggs, you can donate that, but you can also have it. But you could have certain cases where it's like if someone, I don't know, has able to grow like the best lungs ever or whatever, could they like basically patent that or copyright it or license it type thing? Do you like license body parts to other people? Like, oh, I want Kim Kardashian's ass or Sydney C's tits, like that might be the new wave of like cosmetic surgery where you have licensed body parts that you can have, which is kind of dystopian.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Or do you take like Michael Phelps' lungs or some shit like that?
Or his web feet, right?
Yeah, that's super wild. It's a little
Yeah.
freaky. I like the idea of like having a backup for yourself in case something goes wrong. It's a little weird if you start like selling it off or like creating the best ones of yourself or licensing, but at the same time,
it's like surrogacy, right?
companies doing
Like
that.
surrogacy is allowed. And I kind of think it should be viewed as prostitution. I do think that actually.
Yeah, I mean, selling your body in a
You're selling your
sense.
body. And whether that's allowed or disallowed, I think it probably should be allowed. But we view like prostitution as like, oh, these women can be coerced and they can be put in bad situations, and like you do it, they're highly vulnerable population. I agree with all that, but like you don't think the people doing surrogacy are the exact same population?
Yeah.
Young vulnerable women doing it for financial gain because they need it.
Yeah.
Like they're both selling your bodies. I don't think any one is less. I mean, one is only for like one's for 9 months, the other one's for like a half an hour.
Yeah.
You
kind of wonder if like you fully understand like the changes your body goes through.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
like it affects your future kids. It affects if you don't have kids.
Everything.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one, especially if you do it to like young people. Like,
yeah.
No, it's weird. It gets a little weird, but
feels way more dangerous than just having sex.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But society just kind of blew past that one. So here we go.
Yeah.
I do think there's an interesting thing in society right now where like it's like everything that was kind of taboo before is becoming like normal. Like we just don't like to, I don't know, it's like I don't know if it's like a counterculture thing or like what it is.
Yeah,
but
I think it's a counterculture thing.
But it does seem like it works. And it just is like, oh, normalize this, normalize whatever. And it's like, I don't know if it's always good. Like I don't know, we've been out in the world for like years and we've learned some things, and maybe it's okay to like learn from our past. And then at the same time, it's like the world is changing so fast and we live in a time that's so different than, I mean, the last 100 years, like we're just so different. And now going to the future, it's like you can't really look at the past as much. I think maybe more on like the personal like relationship stuff you can kind of look forward, but it's hard. It's just like a weird, interesting time. I don't know. It's like very wild. Just like watching.
Yeah, I think like we struggle, like definitely in society, right, where it says like we're most divided and like lonely and all that stuff. And like in reality, like I think if you look at men and women, right, their political, viewpoints have so drastically. But really it's single women that have become so much more liberal, and everyone else is like, you have like college or non-college white males, they've become very conservative, but like like
I feel
other
like they were.
kind of like become like they're all moderate, and I think it like skews it, right? Where I think just single women are just becoming so polarized, and I kind of get that, right? You know, like if you're just tuned into and you heard like, okay, during the pandemic, like there's like this deadly plague, you know, which it was, and all these safety things, and people around you aren't doing it, like lose your mind. And like if Trump's like literally Hitler part two, lose your mind. And like all these men, you know, like Tate, like lose your mind. Just all these things were almost creating a way for single women to like lose their shit, right? And don't have like a sounding board of like, okay, yeah, this may suck, but this is not like World War II, you know, this is
Yeah.
concentration camps. This is, sure, you can disagree with this or maybe even view it as damaging and, you know, whatever, but like it's not the end of the fucking world, you know? And I think like for men and women, like girls provide typically a good kind of like a force to kind of tame guys like being crazy wild. I think guys provide a good force of like, okay, you know, like camp down anxieties and like stressors, you know, like it's all gonna work out, you know, like it's fine, you know, or like, okay, you know, like if you only watch CNN and MSNBC, you know, like you'd think
That seemed pretty bad, yeah.
shit, you know, versus like, okay, you know, some crazy stuff happens, some either happen, but there's a good reason for it, or something didn't happen at all, right? And I guess, like, I think anything in life is like moderation is almost always probably, it's actually, maybe that's like a certainty, actually. Moderation in everything is a good thing, whether it's politics, drinking, you know, happiness, sadness, whatever. I think you need a little bit of everything, you know, to be a stable person.
Yep.
But I think once you veer off, so, and you know, like that we're dating, right? Like the number one way to meet people, I think it's been for the last couple of years now, through online apps. And I think for women, because a lot of them, it's like, okay, if I get to know someone, you know, I warm up to them, and they're less about like, oh, just physical features and stuff than guys are, where it's like, oh, you know, like how they treat me, you know, how they interact with society, how they interact with their friend group, their family. You know, I think that's important to everyone, but I think almost more so, like women judge guys more in their environment than guys do. You know, where guys like, oh, she's hot with big tits, she's nice, and she cooks well. It's like, all right, that's probably good enough for most guys out there. You know, just knowing those facts. You know, but it's not really the same for women.
I think it's like a little bit too of just like for both ways. It's like just living in your bubble. Like the more you're in that bubble and like, you know, your friends are like telling you like this is okay or that's okay, or like, or
Mhm.
say you're swiping and you're just like making fun of every guy on the app, and it's just like kind of a fun thing. It's like
Mhm.
it's kind of like too, like even before apps, like you would kind of like say you like the girl and you'd kind of like feel out with your friends like, well, what do you
Mhm.
think of her? What do you think of her? And now it's
Mhm.
like so easy just to swipe and move on, especially if you're living in like a city, there's like a million people. So it's just like such a different, it's a weird thing. I don't know. It is a very weird thing. It's hard. I do think that there's a good balance between like men and women, just like in how we view things. And, you know, like hope, I always believe like hope is a very big, important thing for humans. That you
Mhm.
just have to have hope. You can't be like a doomsdayer. Just like the climate change stuff, or like whenever I
Mhm.
see like children like freaking out about politics, it kind of
Yeah.
like drives me nuts because I'm like,
It's almost like child abuse. I think that's child abuse,
yeah,
honestly.
and it's like they don't have the ability to like go search answers themselves, or like talk to people that, or find like a kind of variety of things. Like they're just getting pounded whatever their parents are telling them, or teachers
Mhm.
or whatever. And it's like, you guys need to like lay off these kids. Like, and honestly, that's why I'm kind of pro like sheltering to an extent.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone likes to be like, and it's kind of funny because everyone's like, well, sheltering's bad, sheltering's bad. It's like, well, until you're like 12, you really shouldn't
Yeah. I
be
think you should
stressed.
you should be sheltered from any bad thing, you
Yeah,
know?
you shouldn't be stressed. Like sheltering is like blocking you from trauma, is really what
Yeah.
it is. And it's, you know, I get you don't want to be like naive kid and get made fun of, I guess. I
Mhm.
don't really even know what the downside of sheltering. Like obviously you want to like start to understand the world as you get older in high school and stuff like that, and realities, and like work towards problems in the world and how you want to like fit in the world and everything. But like sheltering as a for kids is a good thing. you really shouldn't be exposed to like the issues of the world or the stresses. And if you are, like, I think you feel it from your parents, like when they're stressed. And if they're gonna like be open about it, like I feel like with my parents, it's like you could feel like if they were like the business wasn't doing as well, you could just feel like the stress a little bit. But it's not like they were like saying like anything to me. You just kind of feel a little tension. And now it's like it just seems like people just openly talk about like climate change or this president or whatever. It's like horrible, and you're just like, these kids can't understand. Like, no one can really understand shit until they're 25 years old, to be honest.
Yeah, and
You
even
know,
then, it's like kind of a crapshoot. Then
even like now, I feel like my mentally I'm just like way better than I was 10 years ago. You know, and it's 5 years ago, and it's like a process. And doing that to kids, I just think is wrong. So I guess that's kind of a good segue into this next one, which is in Spain. So I actually learned this recently. In Spain, you have to like, if you want to own certain breeds like pit bulls, you have to actually go and take a test, and you have to like answer these questions on how you would react in certain situations or like your mental kind of emotional state. And it's kind of interesting because you have to do that for dog. It's like, should parenting require some form of like, I don't know, practice or license or class before you know, it's hard because you can kind of make it happen before, but what do you think?
So, kind of depending on how spicy I want this answer to be. But if you right, because it's only certain breeds, right? You know, like, okay, if you have a golden retriever, it's okay, you know, but it's the breeds that are more
maybe not that spicy.
Yeah, prone to like violence or whatever. So it's like, you know, I guess I view it more that like one, no, because that's just, I think it's an inalienable right, you know, to be able to have kids. But I do think we should promote two-parent households way more than we do now, right? Like it's almost, we do the opposite, where you get more benefits if you're a single parent than you do if you're a dual parent, right?
Yeah.
Like from the government or child care or whatever. And so I think that has led to like really disastrous results. And you could say that compounded with like the war on crime or the war on drugs and, you know, like gang culture, whatever, you know, there's a lot of different factors there. But I think if you have two parents in a house, like your odds of doing well in society, like shoot up. And it's like basically, especially from like 15 to like 22, that's kind of like a danger zone for like, you know, either a young woman getting pregnant or a young guy committing, you know, crimes, going to jail, you know. So if you can avoid doing those things in that time period, you'll probably have a decent life, you know. And so how do we, I think that's kind of like the question that we should be focusing on. And I think unfortunately we can't really have a super honest conversation about that at this point. I think pendulum is like going back, and maybe we'll approach it. I don't think we really ever will, but I think that's kind of like part of it, you know, in a sense. So how I
see it kind of is like, yeah, maybe this is a poorly worded question because it's kind of meant to be spicy.
It's setting me off. Yeah, it's really setting it. Yeah.
But I will say, like, I think when you go to like people getting pregnant like young before they want to, I think one of the biggest issues is like education, right? So it's like you're just not understanding like the ramifications of your actions, and
some people just aren't able to be educated. Like they're just dumb enough that like you could sit them in school or whatever. Like they'll like people, like I think maybe we just have different viewpoints here, but I think there's like probably 10%, 20, 30% people that are like clinically retarded, and like no amount of education will fix that.
I think you can educate. I mean, I don't know. I think you can educate enough to, I think education is like my number one thing, honestly, in our society. And I think it starts like with you're saying with like having two parents that can help you. I think like sleep is a big one. Like people that, you know, some children, like they don't like get a full night's sleep because their parents are.
Well, nutrition is huge. Like if you don't have like a good meal, like you can't study and focus, and
yeah,
you act out.
Just someone to like if I didn't have like my parents around, I probably would have just gamed all day, right? And not
Yeah.
done any shit. Like
Yeah.
I definitely got kind of like pushed into, like, it was kind of like forced to get educated in a sense. So I think you can pretty much educate, maybe not to a doctorate degree, but like
Mhm.
most people can get educated enough to like understand that the act, like, and build good habits too, and just like have ramifications for their actions. And then I think once you get to a point where more people or less people are having kids unplanned, then you can like, okay, now you're not the licensing is kind of stupid, but
Mhm.
it's more of like you're taking classes to learn before you actually have your kid.
But
Which is
so if we go down that route, right? So it's like I think it's like two college age parents that make like household income of, we'll say, like 100,000 to like 300,000. They on average have, I think it's like 1.4 kids. And so, like, I think society is like staring down a population decline, right? Like South Korea is not going to have. It's like basically going to be a tenth of what it is in the span of 100 years because their birth rate is so low.
by choice.
So yeah, but it's like, okay, if you make it almost like harder to have kids, then like so many of our systems, like Social Security, stock market, just relies on an ever-growing populace and ever-growing money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like AI and technology can kind of be a stalwart against this, but there's still like Social Security, right? Like if you have just like this ballooning, and we're like already kind of getting there, a ballooning of population, and like Europe and all these, like advanced economies where they provide generous amounts of, like medical care and retirement, like basically just paying for old people, like then you like either have countries just go super hard in debt, which we're saying, and you have a democracy, right, where all these old people are going to be the biggest population. They're going to say like, well, they're not, no one's going to willingly cut their own benefits. So like there is a route where saying be optimist, but there is a very, very pessimist route that is feasible, that can happen with the whole world. It's just basically everything goes in debt. All these like services fail. Democracy gets repealed because old people, vote for their own services, and, anarchy prevails. Right. Um, like
Wait,
Korea, like North Korea could totally take over, and like everyone could be like North Korea, and South Korea just completely gets wiped off the map.
but what about incentivizing more children?
Yeah. So you like a Nordic country tried that, and like basically, right, you have like, I think it's a year, 2 years of parental leave, not just maternal leave, parental leave. It's already like voted like the least sexist population, like on paper they have everything that you would want to have it. So people get together, get wed, and have kids in a safe, loving home, prosperous. And it hasn't done anything. Like it had, like they spent, and like South Korea is spending billions of dollars trying to get their people to have kids, and it's not working. And I think a large part of it is like, yes, like the money is a pain, but like you don't have kids because necessarily of benefits. You have kids because you feel happy and you feel confident, and you feel like good about the future. And it's like almost that we need to like change, like make it so that media is like, okay, because I think everyone thinks like, oh, having a kid takes all this time, work, and effort, and that's true, because we spend more time with our, like, I think a father today spends more time with his kids than a stay-at-home mom did back in like the 70s, which
We
is
need to.
which is crazy to think about that. Like we spend so much more time. It's like the societal expectation of what you should do to be a parent has just ratcheted up like 100%, and it's like almost like we need to go the exact opposite of like, as long as they're not
kids be
dead,
kids.
you're doing a good job. Like, so what if they're gangbangers? So what if they get pregnant? Who gives a fuck? Just keep popping them out, baby. And like share, like incentivize it. But like, I think we just need to like like.
Here's an
Yeah,
interesting question, because I was looking this up the other day, but I can't remember exactly. It was hard to find. But like in China, you had
Mhm.
tons of people die, Pol Pot
Yeah.
and Mao, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, and they get to a point where they have to make a one-child policy, right?
Yeah.
And they were incentivizing children in like I think it was like the 50s, 60s. They were
Mhm.
incentivizing children. It went bad at first,
Mhm.
and I think it led to a bunch of more deaths, unfortunately. But then, like, they did somehow get to a point where all of a sudden they have an insane population, and they're almost
Because
limiting it.
so it's like a pendulum, right? So I think like once you live in such a shitty society, you don't have choices, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna choose to fuck, right? I'm gonna choose to
Yeah.
fuck. And then if you don't have any contraceptives or anything, you have babies, right? And we have so much contraceptive use and so much knowledge and so many choices where it's like to choose to have kids requires a
Yeah,
lot to think about, right?
it's actually a good
So
point. Yeah, no,
yeah.
it's interesting.
Like why, like if you don't really want a kid, like, okay, so I could have a kid, spend all this money, have something that's like I basically am responsible for forever, or I can just get married, have all this money, be able to travel, and that lifestyle is celebrated like in a lot of places, and that's completely fine nowadays. Like maybe I'll do
It's
that one, right?
it's interesting to think because like before, like what you're saying, like humans, like we're always just like wired to just have kids, but now we've
Yeah.
almost
Now we've
replaced.
like reached self-actualization, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah, it's wild, and we're just choosing to do other things
hmm
instead.
And like back in the day, right? Like you only met like a couple dudes in your town, and so it's kind of like, and as a woman, right? You weren't like highly
Standing
skilled or
for
whatever. Like your standards were super low, and now they're like super high, and that's probably a good thing, right? Like educated workforce, but it's like now that they're high, like women still are loath to date down in terms of economics, right? Like, and men aren't catching up as fast as women are, and women like kind of hate that in terms of dating. They never want to go down a tier in economics. So I think that and like politics, right? We're talking about like single woman veering. So it's like, okay, if I was an say like I got, college degree woman and I have a good job, why would I want to date Trump voting white guy who makes
yeah,
like $30 an hour? Like I wouldn't, like I would think I deserve better, and you're probably right. And so it's like, all right, if you're not getting together, like I think I saw marriage rates are now like at 40%, or they dropping like stones.
yeah. I
Yeah.
guess my only thing back to that would be, I think like maybe the one of the issues is like you create this judgment on people, and that's maybe what
Yeah.
the dating apps allow is like
It's like
that's one.
so many choices, but they're
It's
not really
but
choices.
you're also like you're judging people so quickly, and you just like look
Yeah.
at them, you read like 3 lines, and it's like whoever even writes a good whatever, like who
hmm
knows what it's going to hit, you're going to like it or not, and you just move on to the next. Where it's like you meet someone at a bar or you meet someone at whatever church, I don't know,
hmm
and then you're just like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? What do you like to
hmm
do? Where do you where do you hang out? And you just are. It's a little more, and then maybe you find some things you don't like, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
I don't really like that, but there were a bunch of other great things about this person.
hmm
He seemed like friendly, and he has good friends, and he comes from a good family. It's like you give him a shot or not, but at least it seems like, and it goes both ways. But like
hmm
it's just like the judgment is quick nowadays. But you are right about it is interesting though, like because with women becoming more educated than men, making more money, it's almost like this pool of their possible people
It
to
just
date
keeps
is like
shrinking.
pretty
Yeah.
small. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
almost like unironically, I think you remember that Black Mirror episode where like you're assigned to a date and you like go stay in a little cabin and you like have to spend 24 hours, and like I honestly think that's probably a good thing nowadays.
yeah, it'd be kind of
Like
cool
willing
actually.
to like, and not like nationally, but like willing to sign up for it, where it's like I think we need to remove like you have the choice to opt in, but once you're in on it, you have no choices. Or even like a dating app where it's like you're not swiping, you have zero choice. Like we're just gonna match for you, And I think that'd probably be a good dating app. I think there's a study I saw, and I don't know if any of this is true. Like all this stuff I'm saying, I don't know if it's true, but I think it's true. Um, that like when you go to a restaurant, if you have like a cheesecake type menu, menu where it's like, 50 choices versus like one where you kind of like a boutique hipster restaurant where it's like, 6, you way more enjoy your food, even if it's the exact same food when you have like the 6 choices versus 50, because it's like, it's everyone just keeps thinking opportunity costs. And it's like, well, I have this, but maybe I like this more, and I think it's the same thing for dating where the more choices you have, like sure it's good for like the supermarket and stuff, like, oh, like okay, that,
Yeah.
but like when it comes to like because it's like our human impulse and like reactions to that are the same, but like when it comes to like serious stuff, like they're a huge detriment. And I think that's a big thing. It's like women kind of hate having choices. They'll never admit that, but like it's just not a good thing for girls to have choices.
It's funny. It's an interesting comparison to a grocery store because like, or like Netflix, I think it's a good example. Yeah. And when you have so many choices, it's almost like you don't choose or it takes forever. Like you're just like going through, you're like, oh, there'll be something better. There'll be something better. There's something better. It's interesting because in the grocery stores here, I feel like we have way less choices. And I don't mind it because like, I don't really care that much anyway. And I just like, it's like 2 types of fucking this. Okay, grab that one. 2 types of this. Grab that one. You just like move on with life and it works out. And I was just a little tougher when you're talking about marriage, but like you can date, right?
It's kind of the same thing, honestly, like
actually it's an interesting analogy. I think it's
or even like and like similar what you're talking about like Netflix. I growing up, right, you'd see movies on TV and I was always entertained by it, like so now it's like Day After Tomorrow is kind of like the perfect TV movie in my mind, where it's like I'll never pick it, like on like a site, like if it's on TV, I'll watch it. I'll be perfectly okay with it, And I think like it just needs to go, and maybe that's where AI is going to help us with, where it's like it just understands you, knows who you are, so it gives you like, okay, would you want to watch movie A or movie B instead of like, oh, here's 50 or 150 choices, and so it's like you only pick A or B for everything, like A car, B car, A piece of shirt, B shirt, A husband, B husband, and I think people's lifestyle, like will increase dramatically, I think that's kind of the future for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the freezing of too many choices.
Yeah.
Interesting discussion. Interesting discussion.
All right.
Moving on.
Is this approaching 2 hours again, huh?
NFL teams of all clones. Who would you clone?
Well, so it's like player. So if you got to clone one player for like all 52-man roster, who would you pick?
Oh, okay. I didn't really understand this one. Okay.
Yeah. So I think the obvious answer is Tyson Hill. At least offensive wise. And like, so it's like hard, like, like now it'd be like Travis Hunter, but I think you kind of need a bigger guy, right? For like the lines, so maybe like,
Josh Allen.
Yeah. Josh Allen, Penei Sewell, like a really good linebacker. And you just run like, just running plays all the time.
That's an interesting one. Yeah. I would definitely want a guy who's like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", a little bigger, stocky.
Because he needs to be like, you can't have like a twig. If like my team plays your team, right, and you have like, I don't know, like a Justin Jefferson, right, you're just gonna get blown up.
Yeah, on the
line. Or Mahomes or whatever. Yeah.
A bunch of, is there like maybe like an edge rusher, like Micah Parsons actually would be an interesting.
Yeah, he would be pretty good because he's like he's still a beast, but he's still like
so fast. He'd be kind of fun. Yeah, TJ Watt, a bunch of TJ Watts.
A young Khalil Mack, I think, would be perfect.
Yeah, fucking animal. Donald, Aaron Donald's a little too short, I would say. I don't know if he could like throw the ball, but.
Or maybe like Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick's a good one. What is he, like 6'3", 255? Yeah. So it's almost like you want like more of the build first, and then go with
then go or like the complete opposite and just have all Tyreek Hills, and it's like you're just gonna do a shit ton of laterals, and you're just like who cares if you can't block, or pass rush? You just
defense would be a little tough, I think.
Yeah, but like like I don't know, or like a super awesome cornerback. Like I don't know, like you have like Sauce or Sertan or something.
Yeah.
You know, like just really fast guy.
All right,
It's
what
like,
about one guy on the Packers?
who would you clone?
Yeah.
Probably. I'm gonna go with probably Kraft.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
Gary for sure, but that's a good.
No,
That's a good
Gary kind of sucks.
Kraft's a good one. I mean, he's pretty athletic. When he did
Yeah.
that like jump
Yeah,
thing,
when he came back up.
dude,
Yeah.
I could not believe that. I was like,
After he got fucking laid out, man, that was crazy.
yeah, didn't get hurt, thank God. But yeah, that was. I was like, damn, he's like crazy athletic. So that was really impressive, honestly. Yeah, he'd probably be a great pick, honestly. Him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like of a defensive guy. Maybe Edgerrin Cooper. Cooper's
Yeah,
pretty great.
yeah, and he's just so
Athletic.
twitchy. Yeah.
Play, maybe.
Play, yeah.
Just run a bunch of TJ Slaytons out there. Just be hilarious.
Just clog it up. Yeah.
Go get him, TJ.
I was looking at a Packers lineup on like PFF. TJ Slayton is the worst graded starter on our team for PFF. He is rated at 43.6.
Aww.
109th out of 124 defensive interior.
He plays a decent amount too.
Yeah.
Why doesn't what's Wyatt rating? Because he doesn't play.
So Wyatt, he is a 59.4. He's the 55th out of 124. Lucas Van Ness at 51.9, 104. Clark is 67th. Like we're just like basically mid across the board. Like if you look at it, it's like the only people that are like Gary is 69.8, 38th edge.
Okay.
Christian Watson, Reed, 70s. They're like 50, 52nd, 46. Love is 16th. Josh Jacobs is the third best running back.
Okay.
Zach Tom is 7th best tackle. Rasheed Walker is actually kind of worse than I thought. He's 49th out of 80. I thought he was a lot better. And Zach Myers is literally 40th out of 41st centers.
Damn.
Yeah.
So Matt LaFleur is just like the most amazing coach
I
ever.
guess, but like, so one thing is that if you look at our defense, like actual stats kind of suck. But like when it comes to like EPA, because we have like a lot of turnovers and shit, you know, it's a true bend don't break defense, you know. So I think PFF can't really account for that because it's like I think they really underweight, you know, like, oh, a fumble, a sack, you know, whatever, right? Like if you allow like 2-3 yards every play, but then you get them off, you know, on fourth down, you know, you should be really successful, but like per PFF, you wouldn't be so good, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Or like if you catch a bot, like because isn't the rating kind of like each play is like you're kind of in this range? It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
Like so, if you catch like a bomb, it should almost be like worth way more.
Yeah, it should like break. It should like break the range.
Yeah. Same with like that Packer guy who created his own system. I think it's like +1, -1.
Yeah, exactly.
It almost needs to be like a +10 or something.
Yeah,
Because turnovers are a huge fucking deal. And it's also too like the result of the drive.
Yeah. Yeah, like I get kind of what they're doing, like where it's, you know, individual and like context independent, but I almost wanted to see like a competing service, like basically anti-PF, where it's like all context only, you know, even if like you got super wide open, you had an awesome play, but you dropped it, you know, that's the same thing as like
same result,
same, you know, because that's all that matters, right? You know, and like so if you're if you're Wicks and you're super wide open but you drop all the time, like who gives a shit, you know? But if you're never open and you catch it, like who gives a shit, you caught it.
Well, yeah, because Jordan Love to me is better than 16th overall. Like I don't know, he just makes like his plays are like some of the plays he makes are.
Well, that's all the whole season though, right? Like when he was hurt and like stuff, and I mean, but he had like brutal pick sixes and shit. You know, like 8 picks in a row. You know, but like he definitely like, you know what I would do? I would create like a potential system, right? Where it's like, okay, he obviously has the potential to be better. I don't know if he's gonna reach it, but like, you know, like he has more potential than Jared Goff for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like it should take into some consideration the injury. Like the groin thing was bothering him a lot. He couldn't move.
He was and like now you saw him like he had that couple of first down runs that look really good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it'd be fun to mess around with the data. If we could just like get on a call, talk to Dave, and just have Dave quantum compute it for us.
Yeah.
Let's do that. All right, Tucker Crest, 53 Tucker Crest.
Yeah.
Moving on. Would the world be more peaceful if no one could lie?
No.
In this one, like initially, you kind of were like, "Yeah, lying's bad," but then you're like, "Man,
No, lying's a really good thing, actually.
People would see some really crazy shit." But then
Yeah,
maybe
and like think of like all international and like how many nukes do you have? You know, it's like, oh, we don't actually have a nuke. It's like, all right, well then we're gonna like if I nuked you, would you respond? It's like, no. It's like, all right, then I'm gonna fucking nuke you, you know?
Yeah, I was just thinking more of like marriages being like broken apart and shit like that.
Yeah.
You know, like you just like I feel like you would ask a lot of questions you wouldn't want to know answers to. I feel like that's like a little bit of reality of life. It's like when you just don't need to like prod into things all the time. And it's like because it's like there's like we're all human, you know, and but yeah, like the wars would be insane. But then would it change how you act? You know, would it like have effects that are bigger?
I think after a while, probably not, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if humans can really control how much we act that much. Obviously not.
Like a lot of crime. I guess probably like I guess it would be more peaceful because like you would solve every murder and everything.
That'd be interesting. Yeah. Did you kill this person? Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. You know, like you don't need like lawyers almost.
We'd save a lot of money. Yeah. We'd save a lot of money.
And, like, yeah, like you would have like no crime or anything. Yeah, it'd be kind of wild.
Yeah. You'd probably would just have to adjust like that, like your friends have, like everyone likes to kind of think like no one really says anything bad to them or thinks about, you know, and like reality is just like,
yeah, we've all kind of thought bad things and yeah,
it's okay.
It's all right. It's fine.
All right. So maybe it would be more peaceful, I guess, what we're saying.
Like, I think 100% would be more peaceful, but it'd be like Singapore, right? Where it's like, you know, if you like litter or smoke weed, you get like lashed. You know, is that like is that a better society? I don't know.
All right. No more lies, Sam. We're going to make society better.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Don't ask me how I really think about the Packers or the Lions.
Another spicy one. I think this is our second last one. Will a transgender man, born female, become a man, ever play in a male college D1 program or professional sport? Now, I know there's been a couple women that have played D1, like Vanderbilt kicker, one-offs here and there, but like no one's ever really like been recruited out of college or high school, gotten a scholarship, or like gone pro. So the whole point of this question is like you're biologically disadvantaged, pretty much.
Yeah. Like I think like Caitlin Clark, you know, could she play in the NBA? Well, you know, like especially like its current NBA where it's not, you don't really have to grind in the post and like if you make wide open threes, you know, it's like a wing person, like probably defense, she would be, you know, get exposed and like whatever, but like it's just like a kind of like a role playing sharpshooter type thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think you could maybe argue a case for that, you know. Like a punter, I guess like you don't have the leg strength, but like kicking, you know, like you could if you're like a super accurate kicker from like 40 yards in, you know, that's pretty valuable.
I think it could happen D1 probably.
Yeah, D1. Yeah, like a goalie.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Soccer might be tough, which is with like the amount of running.
Yeah,
but
speed. Yeah,
it's maybe swimming. Actually, I think there's some studies about like long distance
like endurance. Swimming. Yeah, endurance. Yeah,
like
endurance.
Women
girls are good at that.
So Katie Ledecky, maybe I guess we could look up her.
Yeah, or times
if it would be close, but basketball, the sharpshooter. I guess I feel like this is actually like to me though. This is like the real question of the whole like thing, like with sports and stuff. Like because to me, like it always kind of goes one way. Spain actually just banned transgender females in sports like last week.
Interesting. So Katie Ledecky is 15, she's 15:20 for 1500 meter free. Compared to guy college record is 14:30. So quite a bit. It seems
she wouldn't be setting the record, but she probably would compete at like a school, right? Maybe.
Yeah. So like basically no.
Okay.
Okay, here you go. Gaps between
farther.
men's and workers record. So it's like the minimum gap is in the 1500 free. So the one I just mentioned, and there's still the men is like 5.72% better. Then like the highest one is the 500 backstroke is 14% bigger. So basically minimum.
What about like the marathon?
Yeah. So performance gap. Yeah, marathon record. Okay.
I'm just gonna look up what the women's marathon. So the women's marathon record is 2 hours 9 minutes. That beats that beats like the vast majority of men. So Ruth Chepngetich of Kenya.
The woman. So this was from Quora. Women's record is 13% slower than men's record.
Yeah. I guess it's not. I guess my thought is like you're not comparing like the best. You're saying
so even like the 1,000 miles, woman is 12 days, whatever, and men is 10 days. 100 mile.
I think you want to compare. You want to compare like the worst men's competitor versus the best women's competitor. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So then, yeah. So like the 62 mile, like the women's record is like 5.3% slower. So like it seems like that's probably like the best one for them to do.
I would hate fucking running 62 miles.
Honestly, like I think it should be institutionalized. Like these ultra, like 1,000 miles. Like no sane person ever does that.
10 days. 10 days. That's the record. Like
10 days.
Oh, pray for those people, Jesus. All right, maybe in the future. Also, this is also too. Like Caitlin Clark wasn't taking anything. Maybe we like pumped her with some TRT.
Yeah, but then maybe she'd not have like her stroke. Like I think part of it is like, like you hear it, like you put on weight and then you like lose like your touch and stuff.
I guess we'll probably find out in the next like 30 years whether it happens or not. So something to watch for all our viewers. They can come back to us and say, tell us if we were right or wrong.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Moving on. Topic 7. I just threw everything in here.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
We don't have to do all this.
Do you hear? So Assad he's going to Russia and he's going to be an ophthalmologist. That's what he was. So he's going back there. Yeah. And I saw a funny joke, like the one migrant, like refugee, the only one that was a doctor ended up going to Russia and didn't go to Britain or UK.
Good that it collapsed. Obviously, you hope. It's always like interesting.
It's like I don't know. It's like is it like it's super shitty, but like is the chaos in the vacuum kind of like like the Taliban Afghan? Like is that worse almost? Like I thought it was really bad, but is it worse?
Yeah. One thing I was reading, and I thought it was an interesting point. I was like, we had a lot of sanctions on Assad, and it was kind of, I don't like, did that help with the rebellion? I guess
maybe. I don't know. It seems like it's like all, and like the big losers in that is like Iran because they were like a big proponent of Syria. So like it seems like Iran is just taking lump after lump. So that's kind of nice. That's really nice, actually.
Iran is on the low, except I did see that did you see those drones flying off New Jersey the other day?
Or those Iranian drones?
Yeah, they just said like the Iranian, like one congressperson said it like right before I hopped on.
That's crazy.
We can talk about
drone warfare is fucking crazy. That like basically you don't need ships, you don't need anything, you just need these cheap drones, and that's who wins, Like, and you see like to China with their drone displays, how they have like tens of thousands of synchronized, like holy shit, like are they like that's way scarier than how we have all these but like you can't really, you have to resupply them, and it's like an aircraft carrier is like basically a mobile like land, like
Yeah.
I mean, like how insane they are is pretty crazy. But like you could just have like a mobile drone carrier, I don't know.
The drone shit freaks me out. Drone
Yeah.
shit always freaked me out, and now it's like way worse
It's like
because
crazy. It is crazy. Like they have like RFID shielding and like, I mean, they're doing like,
video-
they're like, and like planes, fighter planes basically seem useless now. Like when we spend all this money in it, like who
Yeah.
fucking needs a plane?
I know that's a weird thing too. It's like war's getting like cheap almost.
Yeah, and like
For, like in
I don't know, that's
drones.
kind of scary. It's like you're America, Like
Yeah, it's like we can't just like out. I don't know, spend everything else.
outspend and research. Like if you just get a fuck ton of drones, whatever.
Palmer Lucky, man, we're gonna have to hope Palmer Lucky can just protect
Yeah.
us. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like if China just sent a shit ton of drones at us like right now, but I don't know if we'd stop them.
No, I don't know. I mean, so we probably have like some crazy EMP shit that no one knows about, And I think like that's one thing about US is like at least I think this, and maybe it's not true,
I
but
hope
like it's kind of like Russia, like it's like when they fight, and like so I've been watching this like Perun video where he like every week he does like a military thing, and his most recent one was about Russia's like stockpile of stuff, and like it's getting like so low, like their armored like personnel carriers and stuff, like they only have basically like 6 months worth of shit remaining before they run out. So I kind of hope Trump doesn't just do like a ceasefire, because it's like it feels like Russia is like really close to like not having stuff, So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. They pulled out of Syria because they were kind of part of the Syrian shit too.
Yeah, and they couldn't help them.
It's an interesting time. They have like pushed and got some land recently, but it seems like they're just kind of like going all in. A lot of people have died. I don't know. I think like my whole thing is I think like it's funny because a lot of conservatives were like they don't want to like fund. They just want to I don't know, focus on America and stuff. And I think like what Trump's ended up doing is I think he will do a ceasefire, and then he's going to sell like an insane amount of weapons to all those NATO countries.
Yeah.
And then it'll pretty much be like a war border, I guess. And then it'll just be funny. I think
military zone.
You'll have all the people that were like, oh, don't want to do this, and then we'll just end up doing it and all this.
Yeah. I mean, the military zone works between the Koreas, that's worked for like 40, 50 years. That seems like a pretty reasonable thing to work. Like the weird thing is like walls work, like, like that zone, the buffer zone shit, that shit works,
Yeah, no, definitely. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it all. I don't know. I have no idea like what they're thinking. I hope it'd be nice if we could just like kind of take out Iran, Russia, and all at once. That'd be kind of sweet, honestly. But yeah, who knows? Well, it'll just be interesting to follow. And then I deleted those. We can talk about those other ones. But I just saw this one today. Ohio lawmaker, after Michigan beat Ohio State, he proposed a new law to make flag planting in college football a felony, which I thought was hilarious.
Well, we're gonna have some copycat killers of like sports executives then. I mean, like, come on. And like, is that like, is it bad? It's a crime, but like in terms of society, the guy killing a guy is probably a good thing, to like keep him honest. Like, oh, if I do really shitty stuff, like some wacko's gonna kill me. Like, I think it's good that people in high-ranking positions. That's why I think like January 6th was a good thing. Like it's important so you don't feel too uppity. Yeah, keep them honest. And like, I don't know. Like
I think message sent. My only concern is like there are real issues, and does this like make them? It always just seems like
it doesn't. It's not going to change anything.
They like grip on the power even more, and then they change rules to even like oh, well, we need protection, we need this, and it's like it almost
that's how we get like every Patriot Act.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Patriot Act and FISA warrants and like all this bullshit. It just seems like they. Like I was reading, actually in the United Health Killer stuff, they're like, yeah, the drone programs in Central Park like really helped us. I'm like, great, we're gonna have fucking drones everywhere now, like because.
So I saw a thing that like the NSA or whatever has some like video surveillance, like probably if they're like hacking all of our phones or cameras and like they just use that to find them, but like don't want to like give it up that that's what it is. But like you have to think that with all the technology and AI and shit that we have, that like you can like predict or figure out where someone's going to be. Like there's no way that some McDonald's person called it in. There something nefarious that was find them. And like while that's kind of a bad thing on surface, it kind of makes me feel more comfortable. Like I want our country to have crazy, powerful shit, and like when we do manhunts and stuff, like we should be able to. That should happen. I don't know.
It's a little unnerving because you just don't want. You're just trusting that it's used correctly, I guess.
And I think for the most part, I think like 90% of it is, and 10% is bad. And I think I take that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of my thought with a lot of things is like you have these frustrations with like systems, like doing bad things, but then it's like, so the reaction a lot of people is like, you just want to disrupt and blow it all up. And I understand that frustration, but at the same time, it's like, is what follows better?
It's going to be, but you can't, like, people are so unimaginative when it comes to that take that you just think, oh, whatever is going to replace it is going to be better. Like case in point, Syria or whatever. It's like, oh, remove bad thing. And it's like, okay, once if the bad thing is like the least bad, and that's honestly the case probably for a lot of things in the world. We don't really have like little evil dictators running around, like in like purposely making lives worse. For vast majority of things, there's a relatively good reason why it is the case. And I think, because our government flip-flops between parties a lot and like having two parties, like, yeah, they're kind of like chummy and shit, but like you can't, like, I think that's why like cities can kind of get so bad is because you just have one party just rule it all, or like rural areas, like there's no competition and there's no like changeover of like people manning systems. So it's like you can do a shit ton of fraud, whatever, if you know that like, hey, you're a Democrat and you're in my city and you're a thing, like you're not going to raise hell about it and you're just going to continue doing shitty stuff because no one's going to vote you out, right? Or rural Republican areas where it's like, well, they're still going to win elections, so who cares, You know
the movie A Few Good Men and Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, I love it.
Like, so sometimes, and like the whole point of that is like he's the bad guy, kind of. But
yeah.
I don't know. The more I think about it, I kind of wonder, like there are people that do bad things so that we like don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I know we always want to like chase this ideal of like a better society and treating people and all those things are great and like better healthcare or whatever. But it's just like, I don't know, like maybe I don't know. I think like Trump, the whole election was like definitely like a disruptor thing, right? But it's like, are these disruptions actually going to be better? I feel like we're gonna find out, but
I think they'll be good even if they're bad, because it just shows that you can't get too uppity. You can't just be like, like, okay, like eventually shit changes, So I think it's like it's a good because it represents a large change in and of itself rather than necessarily what Trump does, like it's good kind of long-term thing. But like kind of on your point, the people probably in like fucking Iraq and Afghanistan or like Guantanamo, right? Like, okay, we're the bad people doing the good things, but then it gets out of hand, right? Because like once you torture one person, it's a lot easier to torture more, and then you waterboard and like you have the picture of like people standing around happy with like the people in cloaks and shit because you're so desensitized to it. Like you need like the checks and balances on that. And I think eventually, like a lot of it is like eventually shit gets figured out and wrongs become righted. It's just not nearly as quick as we think, but like almost always wrongs do become righted.
So you think that it gives us an advantage having good morals on the world stage?
Yeah, and because I think we do. Like, is there any other country that like say, hey, you can have all the political might of America, but with your ethos, your culture, your people, and like, oh, Sweden, whatever. But like, we saw them like once they get like a couple immigrants, they don't know how to fucking handle it. Like, for bad as we are, we're so far and away the best at like actually handling diversity and like be able to like take shit. Like no other country can take shit like we can. We're kind of like the bad big company. It's like, all right, we're Amazon, like you may hate us, but you use us every day. And like, thank God that we're here,
Yeah. I also think that like we take it on because we also like, or we take on the shit because we're actually like facing the problems where a lot of countries they aren't. And
No.
it's like, I don't know, it's just interesting. And I hope that like the next couple things go well in Syria, for example. But like,
Yeah.
there's been some wild videos coming out of there. We'll see how it all goes.
But if it doesn't, is it really that different than normal? Not really. So it's like, like I think like we think like America is the standard, and like countries not reaching up to that is like, oh, it's a failure. It's whatever. It's like, no, like the standard is what it's been throughout human history, where it's like Syria. People kill each other, rape each other, behead each other, go to wars. Like that's the human condition. You know, to actually have a functioning, viable democracy where wealthy, where women have rights and all that shit is so like
rare,
unique, rare. It's like we take it for granted when it's just absolutely not.
I think Iraq is doing pretty good nowadays, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like they do have democracy.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of issues, but I think like it's better, and that's
Yeah. Hey, nation building,
We like you're saying though, like we take bad dictators out of power, we put in democracy, and we say,
okay,
we just want to use some more. We just want to use a little.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts?
Right. Moving on. Closing thoughts. Who do we got this weekend? Packers.
Seahawks.
Oh yeah, Seahawks. That'll be fun. I'm excited to watch. Playoffs set. Heisman finalists. We got Jonty. Who's your Heisman pick? Jonty, Gabriel, Travis Hunter.
I like Jonty. I don't know. I think like I'm kind of out on Colorado just because I think it's just too uppity, and maybe it's like race related. I don't know, but it feels like they got like so whatever, and like it is pretty like he's kind of like the Ohtani, and maybe I'm just like over the whole Ohtani like two-way thing, like just anti-bisexual feelings now, and just like what's wrong with having a good conservative Christian running back that does, it's like a Jim Brown, right? Like that's what we should be as America, not this bisexual exploring stuff type players. Let's go back to our basics.
That's a take.
Missionary,
an advocate of missionary. I like Dante too. I just think he's an incredible player, and he's put up like insane numbers. And I kind of like the little guy a little bit. I do think that Travis Hunter's incredible. I think Travis Hunter should be the number one pick, and Jonty should win the Heisman. So
win-win.
They'll both do it. But let's we'll do this again soon. Like and subscribe. Thanks for listening. Good talking, Sam.
Good talking, Ryan. Hasta la vista.
Peace.
Okay.